Hello, everyone. We are live. So excited everyone's here. My name is Talisha. I'm the head of community, and today we are joined by Anton and John. Now, Anton does have to leave shortly, but it is so great to have him here, and I'll let y'all introduce yourselves, please.
Thank you, Talisha. I'm Anton. I started Lovable with Fabian um, almost 1.5 years ago. And then we launched the product in November. And it's been so nice to see what everyone is building. I think we have 70,000 new projects started every day. And we're seeing so many successful entrepreneurs build their business on top of Lovable. And generally, our mission is to unlock a lot of human creativity. And this weekend, it feels like we have more creativity than most weekends. And we're just super happy to see that. John, do you want to say some words about yourself?
Yeah, great to meet you both. I'm a big fan of Lovable and the whole AI world. So, I'm an indie maker. I'm building a lot of products for fellow founders, like tools for building websites, tools for driving SEO traffic, etc. I believe that AI is changing the world and making it possible for small teams and solo founders to build cool things. And I think Lovable is probably one of the best tool for this crowd, including myself.
Nice. Also, Jason just joined us. Jason, you want to introduce yourself? We just kind of threw you into the live stream. Oh, you are muted. That's fine. He's still muted, right? Okay, yes.
I think you should restart the browser or something, Jason, if you can hear me, and and see if that helps.
Awesome. Alrighty. So this weekend is the AI Showdown. We're putting OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google to the test. Let's see if we can get Jason unmuted here.
There we go.
There we go. There
Great.
we go. You want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I guess my background was mostly in machine learning, but now I'm doing a little more of like a consulting and education stuff. And the funny thing really is the fact that in 2020, I had a hand injury that prevented me from coding for a very long time. And so after ChatGPT came out, it's kind of the first time I was able to write again and code again and think, Lovable is one of those tools that really sort of unlocks a lot of that creativity and exploration for me as well.
Awesome. All right, Anton, I heard you had some encouraging words for us before you have to dip.
Some encouraging words. No, I think what I've seen generally is to use AI to build software. It's a bit of an art as well as a science, and it takes some time to master. And part of the reason why we're setting up this AI Showdown together with our wonderful partners is that if you don't feel constrained by money, then you will learn to use AI to build much better. And there's a lot of educational material out there that I can recommend as well. Generally, I think it's a bit about being structured in your process and first figure out what should I build by using chatbot or just thinking about it, and then testing at every point of evolving the product, testing out that things are still working as they should, and complain to the AI if it doesn't do so, and ask questions if you don't know how to implement something correctly. So I think apart from just unleashing your creativity, learning is a great outcome and goal that you should have in mind for this weekend. And a lot of people ask me, look, like, what should I do now that AI is like maybe taking over my previous job and so on and so forth. And the answer that I think is just an absolute no-brainer is spend as much time as possible learning AI tools, because if you just spend a few days becoming good at using AI tools, you're more valuable in the workplace than anywhere else. And that's also what's most valuable to build a successful business if you want to start your own business. I'd love to hear, Jason, if you thought about this. I know you're creating content and thinking about how to build with AI.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has been the fact that I feel very lucky now, right? Like I sort of became a senior engineer, started learning how to review code and started thinking about learning systems. And so when I started using Lovable, I knew a lot of these sort of advanced concepts. And as a result, I already had the habits of thinking about writing tests and reviewing code, and so that process allowed me to like build applications way faster than I sort of originally expected. And so I think a lot of it too is just really understanding that even if your job isn't to write code now, it's this idea of like this systems architecture and thinking about what kind of processes you need to sort of build tools quickly. Those are still skills that everyone needs to develop, right? If you are someone that is starting out today, sure, maybe we skip the first 30% of your engineer's journey, but that last 70%, we're still not there yet. And having the ability to describe what you want and set goals is sort of the valuable skills these days.
There's a lot of to learn. I think that no one is yet like a senior vibe coder, which because it's only been a long researcher.
That's the junior vibe coder. By the way, she's actually using Lovable. So I will show what she built.
She's sharing this.
She'll be part of this hackathon.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
All right. Let's get into what this AI Showdown is about. I'm going to add someone else to the stream. We're going to bring up Caroline from the Lovable team.
Hi, everyone.
Caroline, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So I'm Caroline Wong. I'm part of Lovable team in the business and operations team.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, Anton, do you have to leave? Do we need to say?
And it's a great time for you to join. So Caroline built an AI startup before she joined us, and I'd love to hear about how your experience is now and being able to use Lovable. But I have to go, so enjoy the stream. Cheers.
Bye. Everybody say bye, Anton. All right. So now we're going to talk about this AI Showdown, you guys, and I'm so excited. So I know I've said AI Showdown like 6 times already, and I know some people in the chat are probably like, what even is this AI Showdown? What is Talisha talking about? So the AI Showdown is OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google have partnered up with us to show the differences between these top LLM models when it comes to code generating. So which model is actually definitively the best model to use with Lovable? We want to know, and we're giving that power to you, meaning if you choose one of these models this weekend, Lovable is absolutely, positively, completely free, which is really exciting, which means I told you you have to be free this weekend, and this is why. So before I start asking our wonderful guests some questions about vibe coding and which models are best and things they're building, I do want to just point out what the AI Showdown is and go over the hackathon very briefly. So we have OpenAI, Anthropic, and Gemini. And if you go to AI Showdown.lovable.app, I'm going to put that QR code up in the top left for you. There it is. You can scan it and go to this page where you can enter our hackathon. You can see which model is currently in the lead. No surprise there is Anthropic. I'm biased. I really like Claude. But no surprise, Anthropic is currently in the lead, followed by OpenAI and Gemini. And let's talk about the 2 competitions that our wonderful judges will be judging from both the OpenAI, Anthropic, and Gemini teams, as well as the people on this stream today. So first, we're giving away $25,000 for a content challenge. So if you make a video comparing the different models to each other, or you make a tweet thread or a LinkedIn post, you write a blog post, we're going to award $25,000 in cash, not in credits, unless you want credits. I guess we could give you credits if you want credits, but I think you want the cash. And that's going to be based on your quality, your reach, and your depth. Okay? In the next challenge, we're going to be giving away $40,000 for someone pushing the limits of what's possible with these models using Lovable. So when you submit your project, you're going to come to AI Showdown. Again, scan that QR code, submit your project, add your project name, add your Lovable URL, and just choose the model that you use for that project. You must use at least 90% of one model to be eligible for the award. So that is very important. Also, when you go to sign up for this hackathon, this is not your Lovable email and password. So if you try to sign in with your Lovable email and password and you're like, oh my gosh, why isn't it working? It's because you have to create a new account to be able to submit your project. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking about the AI Showdown. If you have additional questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat and we'll try to get to any of them. But that's not why we have these cool people here, because that would be boring if I just talked about logistics of a hackathon. We're going to talk about what it means to build today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. All right. Okay. Okay, stop sharing my screen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think the very first question we should ask is like, what does it mean to build today? You know, I got started as a software engineer 4-5 years ago. I decided I just wanted to get into tech. So I wanted to learn how to code. And it was really hard, like setting up my environment on my computer just so I could make a landing page was like, oh my gosh, I need a PhD, throw my computer at a wall. So I would love to know like what's different now that we have these AI models and we have platforms like Lovable that makes it a lot easier for everyone. So John, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I think it's the best time ever to be software developer because now only the fun part is in play and the boring part can be done by AI. And I've been writing code for 20 years, and I remember like the last 5 years, I felt like I don't like it anymore because it's a lot of work, a lot of writing, a lot of bug fixing, etc. But now when the AI came in and tools like Lovable, I think like it's so much fun. Like the most of the coding, you see the results right away. And the way I work now with Lovable, for example, is that I skip Figma and I go to Lovable and I start prototyping there with a design level. And then I make a clickable prototype and I make 10 of them and I try them. So this whole process is so much fun that it's hard to stop. While in the past, you're really, really enthusiastic when you start, and once you start building your project and you start writing code, things just stretch to month or even longer than that. And then, it becomes boring and a lot of people quit. So I expect a lot of people now to not quit early because it's so much fun to enter the whole game.
What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I think now, for me at least, I feel almost like a content creator than a developer. Right? I think, when the camera comes out, really it's just big institutions making movies, and then at some point you get YouTube, and now everyone can sort of upload some footage. I think with sort of this world of vibe coding, like being a developer feels as easy as sort of being a photographer on Instagram or like a filmmaker on YouTube. And that has been a really fun way of thinking about, what kind of things do I want to put out in the world? And right now I'm sort of working on this little website that's almost like a museum of sorts. And it is very much just, I'll do some deep research, get some information that can make a one-page website, sort of sharing what I've learned. And that is kind of content creation that, wasn't possible before. Before I have to make like a 30-minute YouTube video. Those aren't my skills, but now I can sort of explore the world that I'm very familiar with.
Yeah. And what about you, Caroline? Because were you non-technical at first or were you technical? I would love to know your perspective.
Yeah, so I have a story of a non-technical founder. Before joining Lovable, I had my own AI startup, and a very typical story. You need to hire design, product, engineering. Had a very small team of like 5 engineers with me, and went through the slog of trying to create the MVP, trying to create the prototype, taking months to get to in front of a customer, only to know that we have to pivot and go through the whole iteration process again. So when I first tried Lovable, it was really a jaw-dropping moment because you realize it's a sense of empowerment that Lovable brings, that you can prototype, build an MVP so much faster, reducing from months to days, and that you can quickly iterate and pivot if you need to. But that time and money spent is really radically reduced. You become what I call a vertical entrepreneur. You don't need the horizontal team, but you can do a lot by yourself.
Nice. Awesome. So I want to ask some of these questions from the chat. And I love this one from Prompt Hunter. He said, what will happen to the software developers?
Well, if I'm to start, I think software development will change, and we will move from writing code into building products. And it will be not a quick process. It's not like tomorrow everything will be changed and there's no more code to write. But I think the amount of code you have to write yourself manually to build a product will just drop every day and every week. And that's happening for the last 4 years, right? And it will keep happening. So I think in the future, you will be more of a product designer, and you will think more about the business use cases and the UX and the user journeys, and you will think less about the underlying algorithms that power this thing. And it has been happening for a long time, because back in 1980 people would care about the processors and the architectures, and now like most developers have no idea what's that. And I think 10 years from now, probably a lot of people won't be writing server side code. I think we'll be mostly doing like a design work and the product work.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. So, another question I had for everybody is I would love to know everybody's personal build stories and how it has changed, improved, gotten better using AI and using tools like Lovable. I would say, me personally, like I said, when I first started, like I wanted to throw my computer at the wall because I couldn't like figure out how to download VS Code. Honestly, I really couldn't. I had like a really old Windows and it was just really complicated. And now you don't have to really download anything, configure, set up. You can just go to lovable.dev and start doing things, which I really love. And I think that's really has sped up the way that I build. And I also think it's made me more mindful of coming up with a plan beforehand, because I often find myself what I like to call vibe coding off a cliff, where I'm just like, okay, now do this and do this and do this. So I would really love to know, like, how have you all's the way you build have changed to accommodate for these new tools, and like how did you build before? Jason, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I mean, I think my background is a little bit interesting because for the most part, I was a machine learning engineer. Right. And so I was very much sort of unfamiliar with the front end. And even though I knew some JavaScript, I wouldn't really put it on my resume because I didn't want to be responsible for sort of that part of the world. It was much easier to sort of write some Python code, do some mathematics, etc. But now with things like Lovable, I'm able to build out different UIs, right? So for example, with some of my clients, oh, I want you to have a data visualization tool, or I need you to have a tool that can help us label more data. And I need to be able to allow them to log in and handle some like user tracking. And those are things I would have never done before, or I would have maybe paid a team like $10,000, $20,000. And then the question is that worth it? And now with something like Lovable, doing those kind of things just become incredibly easy, right? And that allows me to sort of scale out my ability to help the people I'm working with, as well as scaling out my sort of machine learning background. Right?
Nice. John, Caroline, you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest change for me is that I don't have to design stuff with designers and Figma anymore, and I go straight to Lovable. And it's so much better because this design is flat and you don't really know how it will work. You have to imagine that. And that's why you have to iterate a lot with design and then code and back and forth. It takes like years sometimes. And with Lovable, you get design that works right away. So you can actually try the product, and you can even have some mock data. So it kind of works. So, and you can suddenly ask the questions that designers hate. Like you could ask, can you make it more fun, or can you make it look more modern, or anything like that? And then it just does it. Well, if you ask that for designers, they would just hate you for that.
Right, exactly. So I would love to see what everybody is looking forward to seeing built this weekend during the AI Showdown, or if you have seen anything already, or if you know of one model performs better at certain tasks. I would love to see like what you want to see built, what you think can be built with these different models, etc. Let's start with you, Caroline.
So I couldn't help myself. I tried it out this morning, all 3 models, and it's more for an internal tool I want to build with Lovable. It's very simple. It was an interactive website for our team. And I entered the same prompt, 3 different models. Definitely OpenAI was faster for that first gen. Anthropic for me had the best design and functionality. And Gemini wasn't far behind, I have to say. So I think it was very interesting to see what each model spat out. It was quite similar overall, but I think the clear winner for me was Anthropic. What I'd love to see is not just these websites, but I want to see end-to-end apps being built and understanding like how far can they take it from like just the basic user like login, authorization, databases, etc. I really want to see if people can transform their startups or businesses on this weekend, and how far they can take it.
Nice. Jason?
Yeah. So the first thing I had built on Lovable was actually a video sharing application. And the reason I got so obsessed with Lovable was because it worked. We had things like, video upload, thumbnail extraction. And the thing that really surprised me at the time was the fact that we could actually create apps that you could share, right? And so I would really love to see like Lovable applications where there's some kind of social or sharing feature, right? We had built some like commenting system with webhooks, and that worked, and that was amazing. I would love to see some more things like that, maybe like a photo album or something.
Nice. What about you, John?
I would want to see things that nobody else is building, like things from non-sexy verticals. For example, healthcare or construction or agriculture, like something that's not mainstream. Because like I'm myself building for other founders, and other founders also building mostly for other founders. So it's really overcrowded space. It's really hard to grow there and high competition. But if you look at everything else, almost nothing is happening there. Like the medical space has something happening, but most other verticals have nothing happening there. So I would recommend just pick something non-sexy and build for that space.
Nice. I think that's great advice. I mean, for me personally, I've seen so many different projects built on Lovable. I think that's all I do is look at Lovable built projects. And this may be a little controversial. However, there are some things that I definitely don't want to see. I think we as a market have moved past them. The first one is to do apps. We should leave them in 2024 where they belong. Please don't build a to-do apps. We know it works. We know it works. Job boards. I've seen so many variations of job boards, you guys. And job boards that match you automatically with your dream job, and a job board that matches you with your locale and writes your resume and tailors it. Please don't build a job board. We also know that that works and they work really well. Also, snake games. I think we're past the snake games. I think we're past the snake games. Those are also very boring. Let's do something fun and interesting and new. I think I would really, really like to see someone build like an AI Oregon Trail game, because I think AI gaming is the future. So having where your NPCs can like talk back to you and it's not predefined, I think that would be really cool. And Oregon Trail is an easy way to start because it's just a text based game. So I think that's really interesting, but that's just me personally of like different cool things that I think we can push the limits to see built. Okay, let's see. I think we have a couple of questions from the audience, and I think some of them are a little technical about how to build things, and then some of them are more general. So we have this first question from Bobby.io. He says, should you build the entire front end first, then do the back end, or both at the same time? I know a lot of engineers have preferences on this, and some people are very serious about no, you have to do the back end first and then and then the front end, or the front end first, or then the back end. But I think now in today's world with Lovable, I would really like to know, like, what do y'all think is the best way to build?
Yeah, I will start if that's all right. So I think that you should start with front end because you should start reverse engineering what people want. And that's much easier when you build front end first and let them try. And by them, I mean at least you are the one who tries that first. And it's really hard to imagine how things going to work and look while you build backend. That's why when you build something that kind of works, you get a lot of good ideas on what to do next. And also you get more ideas on how to make your backend better. So you're gonna build a way better backend if you build frontend first, because on frontend you can iterate quickly, and then you go to the backend job when you know everything that has to be done, and then you do it in one shot.
Nice. Anyone else have any answers to this question?
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree. I feel like if you try too hard to model the back end first and then start making the website, then what you're going to find is your website's going to look very similar to what the back end has been designed to do, rather than actually building a tool that people are enjoy using. And so, if you do go back end focused, the interactions you have with it will be very driven by that.
Nice. Here is a question from Avik. Is there any age limitations for this? And I assume they mean the AI Showdown competition, but I think it's a great question for in general with building with AI.
Definitely no. I think in the past we've hosted hackathons and we've seen 10-year-olds from all over the world, families also participating. And I think that's the great thing about Lovable. Anyone can really participate. Yeah, it's been great to see.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely seen, people as young as 7 or 8, and then people all the way up to 65, 70, 75, building. And the cool thing is you can build together. I mean, I don't think my mom quite knows what I do for work or where I work at quite yet, but she does know that she can use Lovable, and she's played around with it, and she's like, oh wow, this is magic. So I think it's really cool, and it's really interesting to kind of see this development take place, because my grandma, she was born in the 20s in the deep south, in the United States. So when she was like 10, she saw a car for the first time. No one ever had cars, so she saw a car for the first time, and she described it to me as like seeing magic. She was like, how did this happen? And I feel like we're in that same revolution today, right? Where it's like magic almost, and anybody can take, control of it, which I think is really cool. Yeah. Okay. I love this. It's not really a question. It's more of a statement from Mo. He says, funny how it's become a lot easier to build your own company with AI than to find a high paying job. I definitely agree. And I would love to know y'all takes on this.
Yeah, I think that partially that's true because we are seeing changes in the corporate world, and it's kind of negative there and it's positive in the maker world. So I think now it's kind of the best time to build small little businesses making like 10K a month and run them as lifestyle businesses towards very small niche audience, maybe in your own town or in a very unsexy vertical. So I think that's real because in the past, those businesses wouldn't be created in the first place because nobody would fund them. But today, you don't need the funding, right? In most business, it can be built just using Lovable, and then probably you need some extra work on top of that. But that's the reality. So I would say that's a good take.
I think
Yeah, I mean, as someone who is literally bootstrapping their own business, I tend to agree. I think one of the things that has been really stuck out for me is the fact that when you're building a business, there's really two things you have to worry about, right? There's the distribution of how you get your product out there, and there's how you build the product itself. Right? So if you're not building, you're selling. And I think with Lovable, building becomes so much easier that sort of the folks that have the sort of distribution or the ability to sell really are the ones that now stand out a lot more than before. right? A lot more, you have an idea, you got to go convince some college student to join you to sort of pursue this enterprise, and now you can just do it by yourself, and that's something that's very empowering for a lot of people.
I think Lovable as a platform kind of addresses, if you think of this old START framework, desirable, viable, and feasible, it addresses the feasible part. It makes it much easier to build. But then as a founder, you still need to make something that people want on the desirable part, as well as figure out the business model to make it viable as well. So it might be easy just to build something, but you also got to make something that people really want at the end of the day.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the barrier to entry has basically went to the floor, but the barrier to success has become so much more greater, just like you all said. Okay, I see. Okay, I love this one from the Brand Hut. You're all racing to build AI that can code, design, and create better than humans. But once your AI can build AI better than you can, what exactly is your job? Are you building your replacement? And I think this kind of goes into you can build a business easier than you can find a high powered job, and what happens to software engineers. I think this is something that a lot of people are thinking about. Like, is AI that can build AI going to replace all of us?
Well, like my take on that is that I don't think so, at least not with the current LLMs and current AI architecture. So I think we have really good progress on coding and all sort of things, but at the same time, I don't think the AI coding can be done without humans, and we are even getting there any soon. So I think we shouldn't be afraid. So current AI is probably not the final AI. It's not the end where after that, nothing new will be created. So I think it's more like an upgrade to software. So the old software was dumb. So you would have to just do everything yourself, and software was your tool. Where now AI is helping you out. It's like your co-pilot, your junior member of your team, but it's not replacing you, not today and not tomorrow.
I mean, if you think about like Deep Blue or like AlphaGo, right? One of the big conclusions that both those sort of communities really arrived at was the fact that human plus AI has always been better than just the AI, right? We can use AI to sort of show us new moves and Go. You can use different AI to sort of teach us how to play chess better. And I think there's always going to be a space where there is some notion of creativity and taste and discernment that can come from these systems. I think the other thing too is if you think about sort of the nature of like mass reproduction, right? It's almost like saying, plastic cups and, the dollar store cups that I can buy at the supermarket isn't going to replace sort of the more tasteful like ceramics or the china that we find, right? It will just be the case that one will be more democratized and the other one will be higher taste. And so it's never going to be the case that, this ceramic studio is going to go out of business because no one's ever going to want, ceramics, right? It is just now that like everyone else has more access to, these kinds of tools.
I think from the startup founder's perspective, yes, maybe Lovable can be your junior dev, but you still need to handle things like finance, marketing, and all the other kind of human thinking things. But I look forward to the day where AI agents can help me do that. I want my own AI CFO, AI CMO, CPO, and just to like give me advice on what to do. So I think the road is very long ahead, but I think there's lots of possibility and opportunities.
Yeah, I think a big question a lot of the tech world is thinking is, now there's plenty of companies where there's like $1 million per employee, and when will be the first like $1 billion single person company? So that's another fun thought experiment for the audience.
I love this question from Caesar. What are some of the most advanced features you guys have seen on AI agents?
I think the AI agent itself is advanced and cool. Like that's the feature, right? Like the best AI agents basically have no features; they just deliver the outcomes, and that's probably the most impressive thing I see in agents. So whenever I see agents, that are mimicking the old world where it's more or less of old type of software application UI with some co-pilots. I'm not that impressed, but whenever I see agents where there is one button where you turn it on and you say, you are my marketer, so do the job, and then it does the job, at least for some part of it, for SEO or for cold emails or anything like that. That's cool. So I like that part, like the autopilot part. That's my favorite type of agents.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that the most advanced feature any AI agent has access to is me, right? Like the point is that because it knows when to ask for help, the human is the one that unblocks all of these systems, right? If the AI agent doesn't really know what technology to choose, I can go do some research, learn more about the tools at my disposal, and then come back. Or maybe I can also use another AI agent to help me make that decision, right? When there are times where it needs to get code reviewed or get unblocked by certain infrastructure, again, I can be the person and I can be the tool that allows us to get there. And so again, that's sort of like for me at least, a fun perspective to have when it comes to building out this team, right? It's like a good manager can unblock an employee, and my goal is to be the good manager for this swarm of systems.
I love that. Do you have anything to add, Caroline?
No.
Okay, great. Let's see. Jaku Jose asks, what are some features that you would consider seriously pushing the limits of what Lovable can do? Seriously.
That's $1 million question, or that's $1 billion question. I think one thing that I wish Lovable had is that there was a button where I say, now it's done. Now just make it production grade ready. So do everything that I have to do. Just make sure that there are no API keys exposed. There are no links with no value. Like basically, when you're vibe coding, the way you start is that everything is kind of mock. So you start with front end, and then everything is a mock. So half of the features don't work yet because they're just for demonstration. And then your job is to make it all functioning. But then you miss a lot of the things that are hidden somewhere, and then you have to just find them one by one. And I wish there was a button where just finish this app, like finalize my app 100%, walk the last mile for me, and then Lovable would just screen the whole code for that and just fix all those lost remaining features.
Yeah, I would personally love to see some more things that produce any kind of like network effects or any kind of shareable moments. I think you saw Levels build out this game where it was like everyone else could log on and like play planes or whatever. Any kind of like multiplayer setup I think would be really cool. Any kind of live features was really cool. In the version of YouTube that I had built out, when you uploaded a video, people who followed you would get like a push notification. I think those are some really interesting features, and if we can see that be done over a tool like Lovable, then what it shows is that there's actually some kind of like growth component in what you're building. If you build an application, there's actually these little tools that you can use to make it go viral and make it shareable.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'm silly. So I think what I would consider seriously pushing the limits of what Lovable can do is if you build AGI. So, because I'm just a little bit silly. But that would be cool if somebody built AGI using Lovable. That would be insane. Okay. So one more question from the audience, and then we're going to get into our sizzling hot takes. So Bobby.io asks, how do you convince small businesses that are scared of using AI tools to be more open to it?
I think the answer here is obvious from the perspective of Lovable. So basically, impress them. So if you impress them, they will trust that this is a cool technology, because most of the people have never tried AI beyond ChatGPT. And if you impress them, if you bring them in and show them how you build something using Lovable, and then, for example, there was some little app you all wanted, or there was something that's relevant for this business, and you build that, I think that will be so impressive that the CEO or whoever who is watching that will probably change the whole strategy of this business after that.
I find that small businesses tend to be very cost conscious. And so when they're looking on to bringing on more tools and seeing how much it costs, if they just start on Lovable, they'll see how addictive it is to build something in-house, and you just have to get started, of course, with some planning. But it's a huge cost saving from their side instead of buying all these different types of tools and services to help them run their business.
Yeah, I mean, I would compare this very similarly to maybe like in the early 2000s when small businesses had to make websites for the first time, right? And during those times, the web developers were making a killing because actually every company at some point realized they needed a website. If you were selling flowers on the street, then you can only sort of figure out who wants to buy your stuff from, the yellow pages or whatnot. And when you had the floral website and you added things like ordering, all of a sudden their businesses would flourish, right? And I think a part of the idea of impressing them really is to show them what that potential is, right? Maybe it is just some kind of like time tracking website that you can make with Lovable, and now they can log in and track their employees. Maybe it is as simple as just making a website, right? All those things can help them sort of maybe get more distribution, make their lives a little bit simpler. You'll be surprised how many small businesses just do things on pen, paper, and spreadsheets. And maybe that's just a better experience for everyone to try things on Lovable.
Yeah, no, you'd definitely be surprised how many people still use the white, yellow, pink triplicates to put in orders, and then you have to physically take it somewhere instead of automating using AI or literally just maybe an Excel spreadsheet, because people sometimes they do get set in their ways. But this was awesome from all of our community and watching, answering our questions from our panel. So thank you so much. But before we wrap this up, we only have a few minutes, and I would love to know each of y'all's hottest takes on building with AI. It can be literally anything. What is your hot take? And Jason's smiling, so we're going to start with him.
Yeah, only because I've been writing this essay on what I think Lovable should do next. And I think the answer is a one-click Stripe integration. I would love that, I think the difference between building out this job board on Lovable versus having one that has a Stripe checkout link that says, oh, you know what, for $30 a month, you can add some job postings. If I can do that, then my only job is to sort of share out to this world, actually get real job listings up, get people in front of this page and be rewarded for that. And I think, once that is set up, I'm moving everything.
I think from my side, what I've seen is just a higher model release cadence. So just in the past few months, it's like Claude 3.7 to 4.0. With Gemini, it's 2.0 to 2.5. And now with ChatGPT, it's like 4.0 to 4.5. And with these higher model release cadences, I think there'll be a convergence. And my hot take is that we're not going to differentiate between OpenAI, Anthropic, or Gemini anymore. Who knows where we'll be when it gets to that point. And hopefully the cost will come down dramatically and everyone can build whatever dream project that they have.
Yeah, my take is that all vibe coding tools are great at impressing, great at walking from 0 to almost 1, but the last mile is so complicated. So the one product that figures that out, the last mile, the last 5% before going to production, that product will kind of change the world, because right now we're in a world where vibe coding is a prototyping thing and people build smaller or medium-sized things. But once you fix that, we're gonna see big difference.
Yeah,
I definitely have some hot takes on that.
I want to hear it. Yeah, but I want to thank everyone for their time, for being here on a Saturday. You could literally be doing anything else, but you're hanging out with me and the Lovable community on a live stream for this AI showdown. Before we let everybody go, I would love for everyone just to say how they can keep in touch, how everybody can follow you, where's the best place to connect, etc. You want to kick it off, John?
Yeah. So I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Substack. Don't rush X everywhere. So I talk a lot about AI and vibe coding, and I have this bunker thread about vibe coding tools, and you're gonna love that. So follow me there.
Sweet. I'm Jason. I just updated my link so you can see my Twitter handle. Otherwise, you can just Google Jason Liu.
And I guess from my side, you can find me on LinkedIn. As part of Lovable, we're also looking for more people to join the rocket ship. So We're hiring all across the board. If you're interested in engineering, on growth, operations, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, awesome. So, what happens next, everybody? Please make sure you scan this QR code right here for the AI Showdown to submit your project that you built over the weekend. Applications close Monday, June 16th at 9 a.m. CET. I do not know how to do time zone conversions. Do not ask me, ask ChatGPT. Also, we're giving away over $65,000 in cash prizes. Make sure you select the model. I would love to know which model in the chat that y'all have been using that's been doing really great, who's winning right now. Obviously, I like Claude. Okay. And I would love to know which ones y'all like. Which ones is your favorites? John, Jason, Caroline, which is your favorites to win?
Claude, ride or die. That's all I gotta say.
Same here.
Least hot
I have
take.
to agree. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's a Claude chat. It's a Claude chat. Alrighty then. So we're gonna call it a day. We're gonna give you back your Saturday, if only to build cool stuff on Lovable. You can find me on Twitter everywhere at Real Talisha W, or make sure you follow at lovable_dev. I hang out on our Twitter, in our LinkedIn, on our Discord, literally everywhere Lovable is. I am probably right around the corner hanging out. All right. Well, let's say goodbye to everyone and thank you all for coming. Bye.